Hi, this is Kevin again for the second part of the series, the Egyptians, as a part of the Sudan and the Colonial Wars. I gave a little bit of history on the previous video, but Egypt was really still very important to Victoria. But as I read in the Black Powder book that I thought was so great, it says there's nothing more annoying to a great empire than getting its tail tweaked by some upstart nation exerting its rights. And that's exactly what was going on at that time. The Suez Canal was built. England had purchased a large part of its stock. The Egyptians were defaulting on those loans. And Queen Victoria, she just couldn't have that. That was an economic disaster for England. They needed to secure that. Then you had an upstart, Ahmed Urabi, an Egyptian officer that created a coup within the Egyptian military and basically took over Egypt. And to make the story short, he threw out the Europeans and declared a war against England. And England sent Garnet Wolseley, General Wolseley, to put down that the revolt. And basically, he was a national treasure for England. So the English army went to work. And in very short order, they had beaten the Egyptian army, which was at one time 100,000 strong. It was quite a large army, but because of the mismanagement of funds, it was cut down to close to 35,000. And that's, I think, what started the revolt, was just a combination of all kinds of things. But not only was all of that happening, but the British finally beat the Egyptians at the Battle of Tel al-Kabir, very famous battle for the British. But what I was saying is, to the south was a jihad starting, one of the first, by the Mahdist. And so that's what set the stage, is you've got all kinds of things going on. You've got a jihad, you've got slavery, you've got Gordon there, and you've got all kinds of things happening, which makes this a very, very interesting time and a very interesting army. Okay, the Egyptian army isn't really that interesting, and I'll tell you about it in the next piece of this video, as how I built it and with what. But it is a mixture of Sudanese and Egyptians. You could use this through pretty much all through the mid-1800s until the end. But I use this for the first part of the wars with the Mahdist, and I use it with the British as well. I built the army from figures from both Essex and from Blue Moon, and I think they turned out pretty well. In this next section, I'll tell you a little bit more about how they were painted, the modeling, and what I've done. Yeah, the army is roughly about 500 figures. It's not quite as big as the Mahdist, but I think it represents itself well. I did the Sudanese in various colors of blue, browns, with green flags with various symbols on it, as I've seen on a lot of pictures. All the Egyptians are done in white with red fezzes. I mounted all of them on the same thing, 40 millimeter frontage, 3 stands to a unit. The artillery, I used some old pieces, some new pieces, all interchangeable. Officers are in dark blue, but I think overall, the mixture between the Blue Moon figures and Essex kind of came out nice. The landscape is the same, very arid, rocky with some outcrops. It's not the best painting style. I think painting Egyptian skin tones is not that easy. But I think all in all, the army has a nice look, and I tried to be as historical as I possibly could on creating it. I think the mixture between the old Essex figures and the blue moon blended in quite nicely. As you can see, the camels, the cavalry, even inside some of the infantry units, I have a mixture. And I think there's even a couple of other figures here from a couple of other manufacturers that are very, very old, but I can't even remember what they are. But in reality, I think on the table, mixed in with the Brits or on their own, is quite striking. And I like this little army a lot. And it was fun and quite easy to paint. Until the next time when I bring up the Brits.